Let's talk about the Convention of States. So, we've been talking about first the potential for international conflict, but that leads us into internal conflict, people believing fake news. We've got a problem in the federal government. People aren't feeling that they're being represented. There's a lot of people who wonder if a Convention of States, Article 5 Convention of States to amend the Constitution, I think.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Let me pull up this story from Business Insider. This is Business Insider. Trump-tied conservatives are 15 states away from an unprecedented rewrite.
Is that
of the
you or me?
I don't know if Trump would call me a tied conservative.
I thought you guys were rhinos. I mean, I'm surprised to hear that you're
now we're Trump
based
guys.
Now we're Trump conservatives. So there you go.
So 15 states are away from an unprecedented constitutional convention. Now I bring up this article simply because they're shocked. They're worried. There may be constitutional amendments at the state level. I think it's fantastic. So what is this? They're freaked out because they think it's a bad thing. We've had people already saying they're concerned that if you get uniparty establishment types to have the power of a convention of states, it's going to be gutting the Constitution. My view on that one, my counter before I'll throw it to you guys is the state level guys aren't the federal level establishment rhinos. People working at the state level are voted in by much smaller amounts of people. So when it comes to a convention of states, you've got state reps, state legislators. So these are local guys. Why is it that you guys want this? What are your thoughts on it? Is it good or bad? Obviously,
well, I think first of all, one of the most telling things about that Business Insider article, there's a statement of absolute horror that Congress couldn't control it, the president couldn't control it, and the courts couldn't control it.
You mean the central government could not act?
Oh my God.
What are we going to do?
Absolute horror, right? So I literally saw that article. It's a hit piece against us, and I thought, this is fantastic.
It's against you. It's a hit piece against you guys specifically.
Yeah, against Convention of States.
A group with ties to Trump's orbit.
That would be us.
And corporate America is leading the push.
Corporate America.
Meanwhile, Trump is like, get out of here, you guys. I don't even want you here.
I love it. Corporate America. I do occasionally go to grocery stores owned by corporations. And I mean, that's my tie.
And you admit it.
Tie to corporate America. I drive a car that was produced by, that's about it, really. This is a grassroots group. There are over 5.2 million people involved, just regular folks all over the country. They're actually in every single state legislative district in the United States of America. And I understand why the establishment is terrified of this. And by the way, there's plenty of establishment on the right that is terrified of this too. They don't want us taking their power away and giving it back to the people. That's the entire purpose of this. The founders intended it for right now. This gets in the Constitution in 1787. Colonel George Mason from Virginia stands up 2 days before the end of convention. He says, this is terrible. We drafted a document, doesn't give the power to the people to propose amendments, but we gave that power to Congress. And he asks, are we so naive that we believe that a government that becomes a tyranny will restrain its own tyranny?
Wow.
Got to give the power to the people, right? And in fact, it's really weird. In Madison's notes, that's where we know everything that happened from the convention. All it says right there is NINCOM, Latin abbreviation for no comment. Not one guy in that room said, George, that's such a stupid idea. Everybody was a forehead slap. I think they probably laughed in that moment. So they put in this second clause of Article 5 saying someday federal government's going to get out of control. We're going to count on you folks in the states to handle it.
Are they gonna?
Yeah. Well, let me just a little further that if you read anything about the founding, the founders were fixated on checks and balances. They wanted to have each branch of government check each other. They wanted have the states to be a check. They were concerned about the aggregation of power into a central government, or particularly because they came from places where there were kings and emperors. They didn't want that power to all be in one place because they knew eventually tyranny would be taken over and the president or leader at the time would do that. And so they put in the United States Senate as a check, and the biggest check was that the United States Senate was going to be appointed by the state legislatures.
Yep.
And people forget that for the first 140 years of the Republic, Washington, D.C. was a backwater town with no power. It was.
Yeah, it wasn't important.
Do you know what the largest source of revenue for the federal government was before the 17th Amendment, which changed the way senators were elected?
We're like selling booze or something?
Exactly. It was the tax on alcohol. It's the reason we got the income tax is because of the temperance movement. because the temperance movement could never pass in Washington. The prohibition couldn't pass in Washington because they couldn't give up the tax on alcohol. So they the conservatives traded their vote for the income tax in exchange for prohibition. So we got the worst of both worlds, in my opinion. But anyway, they also passed a constitutional amendment to change the way senators were elected, to instead of having the states checking Washington from doing things to take the power away from them and the people, now it's the people that elected the Senate. So they took away the biggest check on power of Washington, D.C. And so this is the only other piece of the Constitution left to check power from the states is Article 5 and a convention of states.